Hello, good evening. This is Tim Jackson with Purina Animal Nutrition, and I want to welcome you this evening to a few moments. So we'll talk about what we call flock talk. And if you're on this Facebook live stream, you no doubt have an interest in chickens or laying hens or birds, or you already have some birds. So what we want to do tonight is talk through some key points, particularly with young pullets or young laying birds as you first get them, young chicks. Then we'll talk a little bit about how to care for these young birds all the way up to when they start laying, and proper housing, some of the management tips that you need to do, and then proper nutrition for them. Okay. I want to recognize a couple of folks before I get started on the subject here, and that is Mr. Alan Jesse, who owns Cherokee Feed and Seed. There is basically 3 locations that Mr. Allen has his businesses. Number 1 is at Hightower Road in Ball Ground, Georgia. That's the main location. The second location is on Grove Street in Gainesville, Georgia. And the third location is off Georgia Highway number 9 in Alpharetta, Georgia, and that is North Fulton Feed and Seed. So many of you probably already know Mr. Allen and know and have experienced the customer service that you get at any of these locations. But if you haven't ever been into one of their stores, I'd highly encourage you to go do that. They do things right, a very high level of customer service, and have a great product offering for you, not just in poultry, but many other animal groups that are represented. I've been doing this 36 years with Purina, and Mr. Allen and his team truly are one of the best dealers that we have and that I've ever worked with. And I'm not saying that just because Cherokee's sponsoring this Facebook feed, but they truly are. I also want to recognize Miss Karen Witcher with Red Mango Marketing out of Plano, Texas. Karen was gracious enough to help us host this Facebook event, and we appreciate all that they do. So if you have any marketing needs, that's a great contact for you. I want to remind you or share with you that at the end of this, or anytime during it, you can like this Facebook feed, share it, and you'll have an opportunity there to win some free feed at any of the locations at Cherokee Feed and Seed. We also want to ask you which store you typically would shop at, and how many birds that you have. Kind of a neat little deal. And again, we're going to give away some free Purina poultry products while we're doing that. And again, Miss Karen is going to come on at the end and share that again. And then we'll show a link as to, you can go to the Purina website. I'll show it, and then Miss Karen will show it again about participating in a feeding trial that we have for poultry. All right, so again, you can do that as well, and then be able to do that. We'll also take questions. So as you have questions, you can put those on the post here on Facebook. And Miss Karen will keep up with those, and then she'll share them with us at the end, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. All right. So if you'll look over my left shoulder, this is kind of the theme for our poultry business this year, and the road to backyard happiness starts here. And there's a picture of a Barred Rock, Plymouth Rock hen there, and those of you that have chickens, you know that they are a lot of fun. They are productive in that they produce wholesome eggs for you and your family and others, friends. And I personally don't have any chickens, but my son does. He lives about 6 miles away, so we get some fresh eggs every now and again from him, which is a real treat. So with that, let's kind of dive in, and what I'm gonna do is hopefully share a screen here with you from our website, purinamills.com. If you've never been to our website, I'd really encourage you to go there. There is just an abundance of resources there about all the animals that we do research on and develop nutritional products for. And we have a 1,200-acre research farm out in Gray Summit, Missouri, where we do active research, have done for over 100 years now. They're a really fascinating place. We do have laying birds there, quite a few of them. And again, on the website, you can see pictures and whatnot of what our coops look like and some of the things that we do. Our researchers put articles, post them on our website very frequently. And this can be a good guide for you to help raise the chickens. And again, that's what I want to try to do this evening, is share some of the highlights from our webpage and kind of go through that. And hopefully, again, you can when we have more time, you can go back and look further at that. So I'm going to try to share the screen now. Hopefully that is going to happen here. All right, I think it is. So there is the page that you see when you first go on to our website. And this is actually a picture of the Purina Animal Nutrition Center. This is our research farm, and our little slogan, and we truly believe this, is greatness starts here. Greatness for animals starts right here. And again, so we do active research. I want to scroll down again. All our products and animal groups are located on here. So we'll just scroll down through some of this, and I want to get to this area right here where it says backyard poultry. So I'm going to click on that. And there's another little slogan that we have: the greater the chickens, the greater the eggs. And so if you've got laying birds, that's what you're after, is getting some top quality, high nutritious eggs, and get as many of them as you can during the year. And we'll talk about how long typically chickens, their lay cycle is, and discuss that in a second. But to start, we want to talk about chicks and pullets. All right, because again, as these birds come in, we want to make sure that we take care of them properly. All right, so let's go on down. I clicked on the wrong button. I apologize. Here's some things. This is pretty cool. While we're here, I'll talk about this. You can go to our website and enter to win a custom she shed, and this is basically, as it says, a backyard oasis. It's a real nice coop that you can win by going and registering there. You could win a year's supply of Purina poultry feed to help the birds stay strong, and then you can also win some Purina swag. And I'm an older guy, so I had to ask somebody, well, what is swag? And it's cups and hats and different cool things like that. So be sure and go and do that. You can download my first year with chickens guide, and it's basically an ebook, and it goes through, and it's like an electronic version of our guide on how to take care of these chicks as you first get them. And pretty cool stuff there to look at. All right, so let me see if I can get to the article that I am trying to find. We got a lot of stuff on here, so I think right here, caring for baby chicks. What do you do once they arrive? So most everybody knows, and maybe some of you don't, that these chicks are hatched, and typically they are transported through the Postal Service and arrive at the dealerships usually a day to 2 days after they've been hatched. And a lot of people go, well, that's a long time for a bird to be in transit in the postal system, but it's really not. These chicks have abundance of nutrition already in them, if you will, from the egg that they have hatched from, and they amazingly do very, very well as they are shipped. Coincidentally, the folks at Cherokee Feed, I think today, got in a shipment of chicks. So there are brand new 1 to 2 day old baby chicks at the Cherokee Feed location. So if you're looking to get some more chicks, then now would be a great time to go over and visit any of the 3 locations and pick up some chicks. here's a little saying right here: a chick never gets over a bad start, and they never get over a good start. So here's a checklist of things that you need to do to make sure these birds get off to a good start. There's certain types of equipment that you need, and then there's certain ways that you need to utilize this equipment. Usually the thing that these young birds are put in when they first get home is called a brooder. There are different types of brooders, but it's a place that's comfortable, warm, and draft free, and you need at least 3 to 4 square feet per chick. So you need a good bit of room in there, all right, in that brooder. Heat lamp. Temperature is very critical to these young birds, so it's almost always, never mind the time of the year. So right now it's 92 degrees here in northwestern South Carolina and down in Georgia, but you still need a heat lamp to help brood these chicks. You need to hang the lamp about 20 inches above the litter, and then put it about 2.5 to 3 feet between the lamp and the guard walls. So that typically the guard walls would be a cardboard type material. And then the comfort zone for these birds is 95 degrees. So to start with, to hatch to 1 week of age, they need to stay at 95 degrees, pretty warm. And if you look right here on the right side of this, as the birds get older, the temperature they can have goes down. So again, the birds that are 1 to 2 weeks old, we need to keep them at about 90 degrees, 3 to 4 weeks having about 80 degrees, and so on. You can see that. The type bedding is pretty important for baby chicks. An absorbent wood shaving bedding, floor for the brooder, usually 3 to 4 inches deep. Really important around the waters, particularly to change that bedding out as it will get wet, obviously, as the birds are getting water, and that's real critical to do that. Provide a light. Of course, the heat lamp will help with that, but they need 18 to 22 hours of light the first week. So they don't have much darkness, and they don't sleep very well, if you will, that first week. Then reduce the light to 16 hours as they get older. All right. And back to bedding for a second. The cedar shavings typically would be the best. It has an odor, but that could be used. And there's several things that you can use. Wood shavings will work probably better than anything else. And again, easy to change it out. Feeder space, that's another one. Offer 4 linear inches of feeder space for each bird, particularly when they're very little. Here's another tip. You can take a clean egg carton, an old egg carton, and that makes an excellent feeder. And of course, there are commercially produced feeders that you can buy. And all the locations at Cherokee Feed have these feeders as well. And so as the birds, make sure you have enough feeder space, because you don't want them competing, if you will, to get up and get the feed that they want. So we feed a starter feed, which is typically an 18% protein type product. And we'll go over this in a little more detail in a second. An 18% protein product, and you just feed it free choice. When the birds are real little, just put a little bit in there and keep it fresh. In other words, put some in, and then after a day, then take that out, put some fresh feed back in there. Really important. And as the birds get bigger, they will eat more and more of the feed, but you just leave it out there in front of them all the time. And that's important, to make sure they got feed all the time. Then birds, as it says here, they will typically start laying around 18 to 20 weeks of age. And I think someone had already posted a question about how old are the birds typically when they're laying their first eggs, and that's 18 to 20 weeks of age, which to me is amazing. So you go from a baby chick there in that short period of time, and they're producing eggs for you. Pretty incredible. Waterers. For every 25 chicks, you need to fill 2 1-quart waterers. And again, Cherokee Feed and Seed at all the locations, they have waterers that work really well, that you can just screw a quart jar down onto the bottom of it. Fill a quart jar with water, obviously, and then they will do fine with that. Again, just keep the water very clean. You need to change it out very frequently, and that's really important. You and I don't like to drink old, stale, dirty water, and the chicks are the same way. Here's another key tip. Once you first get those chicks, introduce them to the water first. And you may need to take, depending on how many chicks you have, you may need to take 8 or 10 of them. Let's say if you've got 15 to 20 chicks you get at the same time, and take them over to the water and kind of dunk their beak in there a little bit to let them learn what the water is. So they need to be rehydrated before you introduce dry feed to them. And they'll kind of, the ones that you take over there and introduce to the water, they'll kind of teach the others, hey, this is good stuff. Y'all need to come over here and drink some of this. And it's pretty amazing to watch. And then again, once they've been rehydrated with the water, then you put the chick starter feed in there. Again, our best product is Purina Start and Grow, 18% protein. And it really provides all the nutrition that they need. It's got prebiotics, probiotics, helps them develop very, very well, all the vitamins they need. And so you that up until they start laying eggs, about 18 to 20 weeks. Let's see, here's a little chart that you can listen to the chicks and watch them and determine in that brooder if you've got it too hot, just right, too cold, or if there's a draft coming through where you have them and you don't want a draft, you don't want them too cold, you don't want them too hot, you want them just right. So if you look at this picture, hopefully you can see the mouse, there's a little noise, they're panning and their wings are, this is one of the ways that birds cool themselves. They will extend their wings out. And so you see this picture, these birds, this red dot in the middle is the heat lamp. That's the heat source. And so if all the birds are on the exterior of the brooder, they're too hot. It's too hot in there. So if you get above 95 degrees, for instance, that first week, they'll do that. That's what the picture will look like. They'll scatter out. So you need to pull the heat lamp up higher, and that will help lessen the amount of heat that's in there. Just right is the birds are evenly distributed, and that's the second one. They're evenly distributed throughout the brooder. Something else to notice, these brooders are circular. Ideally, if you can have your brooder in a circular pattern, that's best. So lets the birds continually kind of move around. If you have something that's got 4 corners in it, there is the danger of the birds, if they get too cold, they will bunch up in one corner and they will suffocate themselves. So again, if you can have a circular brooder, that works best. Here's an example here of where the birds are too cold. They're right up under that lamp, so they're trying to get some warmth. And again, that first week, they need to be at 95 degrees. And then basically every week from that, you can back up 5 degrees in temperature that you keep them. And if you don't do that, if you don't follow that guideline, they will not get off to a good start, and they won't be as productive laying eggs and growing like they should. Here's a picture of a draft, and again, it's uneven temperature distribution. So just make sure there are no drafts that are flowing through around and over that brooder where you have it. Let's see, here's another question we get a lot of times is how about medicated starters? Because that is an option that is available. And of course, all of our poultry diets are hormone and antibiotic free. And so when we say medicated, chicks typically that are homegrown, let's say, or don't come from a hatchery, typically aren't vaccinated. And then one thing in particular is coccidiosis. Coccidiosis is a parasite that lives in the soil, and it can be very destructive to chickens. It basically attacks their intestinal tract, and it can kill them. So if birds come from a place that, let's say, not from a certified hatchery, then they need to be fed a medicated feed, and they need to be fed that medicated feed all the way up until they start laying. Then you would go to the layer feed. All right, so we got Purina Start and Grow. We got Start and Grow medicated. Again, these are both 18% protein. And then we also offer an organic version of a Start and Grow. And it is certified organic, obviously got organic products in it. And we even have a product called Flock Raiser. The Flock Raiser can be used for chickens as well as baby ducklings and other birds as well. And it works very, very well. So again, medicated is the medication that's in there is called amprolium. It is not an antibiotic. It's called a coccidiostat. And so if your birds come from anywhere other than a certified hatchery, then you probably need to feed the medicated starter. All right. Do not feed the start and grow medicated to ducklings and geese. That is not labeled, so don't do that. All right. Let's see. You teach them how to eat. Simple squares of paper. Again, just start slow with that. Once they've learned how to eat, you will recognize that pretty quick, and the birds will just continue to eat just right on and right on. Again, you can put it on little pieces of paper, old egg flats, or just some pans will be fine to do that. So again, just keep the feed fresh. As the chickens mature, their needs will change. And again, at 18 weeks, they will typically start laying. And so our layer products, we have Purina Laying crumbles or a pellet, and that's basically the chicken owner's choice as to which one. So a crumble is just a little small crumble, if you will, and a pellet is a feed pellet. And again, they will eat both of those fine either way. Typically, there's maybe a little bit less waste with the pellets, so some people like to do that. But then others will prefer the crumbles. And I personally don't have a preference. My son feeds his birds a crumble type product. So that works really good. Let's see, let's scroll on down. So again, there's a lot of different articles. If you look right here where my mouse is, there's a picture of a circular brooder. You see the heat lamp up above it. That's Dr. Patrick Biggs, by the way, one of our nutritionists that works at our Purina research facility. Here's an article about non-medicated and medicated chick starter feeds. Talks a little bit about that. Let's talk about something else that as the birds get older, you may want to consider doing, and that is deworming them. There's basically one product that's on the market that's approved. It's piperazine is the dewormer, and it's usually administered through the drinking water. So that could be something that you may need to do. It depends on where the birds are kept. If you've got clean shavings, keep them in a clean environment, typically, and keep the community closed, if you will. Don't introduce new birds along, then you're probably going to be fine not to have to deworm these birds, but you just need to keep an eye on them, and certainly consult with your local veterinarian as you feel like you would need to do that. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the products. And again, if you have questions about anything we talked about or how to start these birds, how to get them going, go ahead and enter those into the Facebook here, and Miss Karen's going to share those with us at the end, and then we will try to answer those questions for you. There's one product in particular, and we talk about laying diets. Again, here's again just what the bags look like. Kind of a cool little picture of a chick with his foot on the egg there. I always like that kind of picture. And so we'll just open this one to kind of show you what this looks like. So if you open the page, it gives you a little brief feature benefit about the product. So there's 38 unique nutrients that chicks need to grow, and you know this product has got all those, and it's fully fortified. Here's a list of all the different things that are in there: 8% protein, the different vitamins, and we add marigold extract, and that helps for colored beaks and bright plumage. So that's kind of a cool deal. Here's what a feed tag would look like, and then the feeding directions. We always ask people to follow the feeding directions. Those directions are on there for a purpose. And again, we've developed those through the work we've done through the years at the Purina Nutrition Research Center, Purina Animal Nutrition Research Center out in St. Louis. And so follow these instructions. And if you do that, then you'll give your birds the best chance to be the most productive that they possibly can be. And then here's some comments that people would put on there, good and bad. And so again, we'd encourage you that if you're using our product, put some comments on here. If you start using our product, which we hope you do, put those comments on there as well, and we appreciate the feedback. All right, so we won't go through each one we talked about. We have an organic starter grower. Here's a new product, relatively new product for us, and this is called Free Range. This has some added animal proteins in there, basically fly larvae. And so that's kind of a cool deal. I don't know if any of you have ever fed any fly larvae as a treat, let's say, to your birds, but they absolutely love it. They love it. It's kind of like me eating ice cream. I love it. And so birds love that. And so we developed a product here that's got some of those fly larvae in there. It's called Free Range. All right. And notice these are available in larger bag sizes as well as smaller. All right. Key point there. So if you've got 1 or 2 birds, maybe the small bag works for you better. If you've got more birds, then the larger bag very well could work best for you. Again, there's a layer of pellets and crumbles. Here's a product I want to talk just a minute about. This is kind of a sleeper product for us. I don't think many people realize that we've got this, but omega-3 fatty acids are really important to cardiovascular health with humans. And so at the appropriate levels, as we eat things that have these omega-3 fatty acids, it helps strengthen our cardiovascular system. Well, the thing about chickens and eggs is what you feed those chickens goes into that egg. And so this particular product has about 250 milligrams of added omega-3. If you'll go right on down, it talks about, here it is right here, 250 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids. So these eggs that come from chickens that have been fed this diet typically, again, will have a much higher level of omega-3 and therefore are better for you. Just as a comparison, store-bought large eggs contain about 50 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids. So you can increase 5-fold the amount of omega-3 by feeding a diet typical with that. We also have what's called our Oyster Strong system in all our laying diets. And this is a large particle calcium that helps eggshell to stay strong and do very, very well. And again, we add marigold extract in there. All right, let's see. Here's the flock raiser product I talked about. And if you'll look at the bags, just about all of our products, if you look at the bag, on the front of the bag, the picture kind of tells you what it's about. So you could use this for laying birds. You could use it for meat birds, if you're raising chickens as meat production, or you could use it for ducklings, as I mentioned earlier. And there's a picture there of all the different birds that this product can be used with. Again, it is a 20% protein, so it's a little higher protein. Again, fortified with the essential amino acids and the vitamins and whatnot that these birds would need. Flock raiser, that's a good choice right there. All right, that also comes in a crumble and a pellet. Again, there's a medication that we have, Purina Farm to Flock Wholesome Hen Treats. Here's another little deal that is pretty cool that we've added over the last couple of years, but it's a treat. And I know my son likes to go out and give his hens little treats, and they love it. So this particular product here is a balance of grains, vitamins, and minerals. In every bite is healthy for them. So it's a fun bite-sized shape that the birds will love. So again, you don't need to feed this as their sole diet, but every now and again you can feed them some treats, and this is a great way to do it. A lot of people like to have asked this question too: what about feeding like table scraps or things from the kitchen that are left over? And that's fine to do that. Birds are pretty resourceful. They'll eat a lot of different things, but you want to restrict the diet to no more than, say, 10% of their total diet as treats, let's say, or things that come from the table. So they'll eat a variety of things, but restricted to about 10%. And if you go above that, the danger is you get their nutritional balance potentially out of balance, and then they will not perform as well as they should. Okay. Again, we've got the organic. We've also got some duck feed pellets. So if you're raising ducks solely, then we've got products just for that. We've got a meat bird diet. We've also got a line of products called homegrown, starter and grower, and also a layer pellet and a crumble. Mr. Allen and all the stores there at Cherokee have these diets in stock. These are performance type diets that work really well and gives you an option to get a product that's balanced and got everything the birds would need at a more desired price point for some folks. Here is a pretty neat little product called a flock block. This is a way to be a treat and a supplement for these birds. So you'd put this out there, and they're not waterproof, so you need to put them kind of in the coop or in a place where the water can't get to them. But birds amazingly will just peck on that thing, and they'll just have a good time playing with it. We've also got scratch grains. A lot of people feed scratch, and we've also got an organic scratch. Now, scratch is okay to feed. Typically, scratch is about 8 to 9% protein. Depends on where it's a 3-way blend or a 5-way blend that's called a scratch. And again, scratch is fine to feed to birds, but again, it does not need to be the sole diet. Again, laying birds need a 16% protein diet to efficiently go through their lay cycle and produce the amount of eggs that you need for them to produce. So scratch can kind of be used as a treat. Once the birds, you don't feed this to young birds, do not feed it to young birds. But as they get on bigger, you potentially could just use this kind of as a treat maybe, okay? So that kind of goes through, and again, we've got an organic scratch, so these are certified organic type products here. That goes through our products. Let's see, let's talk a little bit about how long birds will lay. I've gotten that question before through time. So they'll start laying eggs at 18 to 20 weeks of age. Depends on the breed of bird. They can lay up to as many as 260 to 290 eggs in a year. That's a lot of eggs. Some breed of bird will lay a little less than that. This Plymouth Rock bird that you see on this poster here behind me again, they'll lay about 250 to 250 eggs per year on average. So birds will start laying again at 18, 20 weeks. They will typically lay on what's called a 305-day cycle. And so the first month they'll lay pretty heavy. So you may have birds that will lay 2 eggs a day sometimes, all right, or larger type eggs. They'll go on, and that second month, they'll do the same thing.